Hello and welcome to Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is where we recap our top interviews from the week that you saw on Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. It airs 4 o'clock Central Time, Monday through Friday on WIBW-TV and also streaming live on WIBW.com. Some very important topics addressed this week. Let's jump right into it with the PACT ACT. The Undersecretary for Benefits for the VA, Josh Jacobs, visited with us, and we had a little conversation over Zoom. The PACT Act was signed into law nearly a year ago now, last August. It's considered the largest expansion of health care benefits for veterans. Very important issue for Northeast Kansas in particular. Of course, we are home to Fort Riley in the Manhattan Junction City area. And in Topeka, we have the 190th Air Refueling Wing, which was instrumental in the Gulf War. So the PACT Act expands benefits, has some presumptive conditions, some presumptive aspects of it so that it's easier for them to get coverage with things that may be linked to toxic exposures. But there is a deadline coming up that the VA wants veterans to be aware of because it will preserve their benefits for a longer period of time, essentially can make things a little bit retroactive, so to speak. The Undersecretary, Josh Jacobs, explained that for us.
The PACT Act is a historic expansion of benefits and healthcare to potentially millions of veterans and survivors who were impacted by toxic exposures. We think it's probably the largest expansion of benefits and healthcare in generations, if not ever, and it allows us for the first time in our history to care for veterans who've been impacted by conditions relating to Agent Orange exposure all the way up to the more recent generation of veterans who were impacted by burn pits and other toxic substances.
It's been nearly a year since it was signed into law, and how many people, what has the response been like in the past year?
We've had nearly 700,000 veterans file a PACT Act claim since the law was enacted in August. And while that's a good start, we think there are many more veterans. We think there are millions of veterans and survivors who are potentially eligible. So we're doing everything we can to encourage veterans to apply and to connect them with access to resources so that they can do so.
We've seen huge crowds at some of the informational meetings the VA has held here in Northeast Kansas. What do you want veterans to know now if they maybe think, well, maybe this doesn't apply to me, or even if they have a suspicion that it could apply to them? What do you want them to know?
Well, one, I would say go to va.gov/PACT, that's PACT, learn more about the law. You can file a claim online very easily. Please apply. I hear from too many veterans who don't want to apply because they think if they do so, it's going to take away from another veteran who needs these resources more. And what I would say to those veterans is, not only do we want you to apply because this is an earned benefit, it's going to not only take care of you, but it's going to help your family and it's going to help veterans. Because when you apply for benefits, when you pursue healthcare, we get greater information and it allows us to better understand the impact of things like toxic exposure, and we can use that information to help other veterans in the future.
What is the importance of trying to get something filed now? And what does it mean if you file now you've been saying this, reserve your spot?
Yeah. So we're asking all veterans who think they may be eligible for the PACT Act to file a claim by August 9th. And the reason that's important is if you file a PACT Act claim by August 9th, we can preserve your earliest possible effective date. In other words, we have the potential to pay your benefits back almost a year to August 10th, 2022, when the law was enacted. Now, if you file after that date, the PACT Act isn't going away. We can still provide you benefits if you're eligible. We just can't preserve that earliest possible effective date.
Do you have to have a diagnosis now? Say you're somebody who served in the Gulf, you believe you have some kind of toxic exposure, but you're not quite sure you're feeling symptoms or have a diagnosis just yet. Should you still go online and apply now, or do you need to wait for that diagnosis?
We want you to go in and apply. The other thing that we're asking veterans to do is to come into the VA health system and perform a toxic exposure screening. So we are asking all veterans to come in, and what they do is they effectively get asked a few questions and they determine whether there is a particular risk as a result of their service, and then they can get connected both with healthcare and with benefits. Even if you don't think you have the condition, please come in, talk to us, call us at 1-800-MY-VA-411, stop into one of our regional offices, or work with a veteran service organization to determine if pursuing these benefits is the right decision for you. If you file a claim right now before August 9th, we have the potential to backdate that claim and pay your benefits back to August 10th, 2022. Now, for veterans who may not have their military records on hand or may not have their health records, you can do something to preserve your spot. You can submit what we call an intent to file. And what that does is it tells us you want to file a claim. It gives you a year to pull together the information you need and finalize that claim. And it preserves your effective date. And so it'll allow us to give you the earliest possible benefits.
You mentioned documents. What do you need to file a claim?
So under the PACT Act, we have the great benefit of what's called a presumptive service connection. So we need two primary pieces of evidence. We need evidence of your military service. We need to know you served in one of the covered countries in one of the covered time periods. We also need record of your health condition. And with the presumptive, we just assume that your military service contributed to or caused your health condition, and then we can provide benefits based on that evaluation.
You can fill out an application at va.gov. You can also go there to find answers to a lot of your questions. Also, you can call 800-MY-VA-411 for assistance or reach out to your local VA or even veterans organizations. They offer assistance as well. Also this week, we had a visit from Congressman Jake LaTurner. He represents the state's 2nd congressional district. Jake LaTurner, a Republican, and of course, there have been some very divisive issues in Washington lately. Congress is on a break, so he paid a visit to explain some of the recent activity. So what would you say is the kind of the headline out of Congress as we make this transition from spring to summer? What's been happening? What's on the table?
Well, for me, I'm on the Appropriations Committee. And so we have been meeting over the last couple of weeks, kicking bills out of committee. The headline is that we are going to spend less money next year than we did this year for the first time in a decade. It's really important because inflation is hurting people all across the state and across the country. It was caused by excessive government spending. So we've got to bring spending down. We also are $32 trillion in debt, which is absolutely unsustainable. So what we did was set priorities. And so this bill reduces overall spending, but it increases spending for our veterans by $16 billion. It includes a pay increase for our active duty military. It fully funds the PACT Act, which is really important for our veterans. It fully funds a border wall and adds 22,000 Border Patrol agents, which is very needed at our wide open southern border. And so we're going to continue to work on this. It's not everything that we need to do, but it's a good start in the right direction.
One vote that Congress did have last week was a censure vote for Representative Adam Schiff, and it had to do with when he was chairperson of the House Intelligence Committee and investigations into then President Donald Trump. Strictly along partisan lines was the result of that vote. He called it false and defamatory. Defend your vote. You voted for that.
We have got to begin to build back trust in our American institutions. And part of that is to hold people accountable when they do something wrong. Representative Schiff was in an incredible position of power as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. And with that power comes responsibility. He was dishonest with the American people. He misrepresented the facts. And millions of dollars were spent, thousands of man hours, and increased anxiety in our country as a result of what he said about the Russia collusion. And so I think he deserved to be censured, but it doesn't just stop there. Trust in the federal government is at an all-time low. We have to begin to build trust back, and the way we do that is holding people accountable, fixing things when we see that they're wrong, and I'm going to continue to do that.
He might have turned that around, though. As I said, he said it was false and defamatory. He'd say, well, you're the ones who are misrepresenting the facts. The Republicans are, by even going through with this in the first place. This whole back and forth is part of what's eroding the trust. How do we stop that back and forth of sniping back and forth with each other on somebody saying something, the other person saying something back?
Well, in this instance, you saw a report that came out that was widely publicized that stated that he was wrong for what he said. There was no Russian collusion. I don't think it's particularly helpful to have back and forth over issues that don't matter, but this is something that does matter. The best thing we can do as elected officials, I think, is to tell people what we're going to do during election season and then go actually do that if we're lucky enough to win the votes of our respective districts. That's how we begin to build back trust, and we're going to keep doing that. Representative Schiff was wrong about this, in not a partisan way. He was just flat out wrong, and it needs to be talked about. So it not only punishes him, which is appropriate, but we want to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Something else that's been going on as we head into summer travel season and make plans for fall and everything else and vacations, the passport situation. There are still people encountering super long delays in getting their passports back. What is happening? And how can people get help in rectifying that situation?
Well, they can contact my office either online or call our office here in Topeka. A lot of folks that are looking to travel have had issues with their passports. This is a problem. It's a problem with the U.S. State Department that we need to continue to work on. But it doesn't just stop there. If your viewers are having issues with any federal agency, whether it's the IRS, whether it's a veteran having issues getting their rightful benefits, contact our office. We are here to help regardless of party, regardless of circumstance. That's our job, and we will continue to do it.
And the delays don't just apply to the passports. It's also, you mentioned the border wall. Well, there are some immigration issues at play here too. People who are trying to follow the rules and trying to make their applications for some of the programs that exist. Yep. They are also encountering delays, and they're not being able to get their paperwork processed. So why are we throwing money at building the wall in the budget, and maybe instead let's put some of that money toward rectifying these problems in the State Department, getting staff there, getting them trained up so we can avoid some of these delays?
Well, these are two separate issues, and both deserve our attention. The reason we need to build the wall and put 22,000 new agents on the border is that fentanyl is pouring across the southern border. If you talk to law enforcement officers in any community in my district, they will tell you that fentanyl is a major issue. Now, it is killing our young people, and we have to address it. It's the #1 killer of Americans 18 to 45. So we have to build a border wall. We have to secure the border. There are also legal guest worker programs that are effective and work. If you're from an agriculture state like ours, this is really important. Stormont Vale.
They wanted to hire some nurses and had a delay because they couldn't get their paperwork.
Need employees, and so those kind of programs need to be run more efficiently so that they are safe, people are fully vetted, but that they happen in a timely manner. And so we need to work on both issues at the same time, and we are doing that.
Which is why this break is only 2 weeks, and then you go back to Washington and work on it some more. Representative Jake LaTurner, appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts on the process that's been happening in our nation's capital.
Always happy to be here.
Thank you. Some news in mental health care around the Topeka area this week. 2 local organizations, Family Service and Guidance Center, which primarily serves younger people, and Vallejo Behavioral Health, which has services for adults, both earned a certain certification. They say it will allow them to have increased collaboration and expand some of the things that they're able to offer, with the greatest benefit being kind of having a continuum of care and mental health services as people transition from childhood and adolescent into adulthood. The CEOs of those organizations, FSGC's Kathy Mosher, was with us, along with Vallejo CEO Bill Persinger, to explain just what this certification is and how it can improve mental health care in the Topeka area. Welcome to both of you. Appreciate you sharing some time with us, because we want to make this clear. Vallejo is still Vallejo, FSGC is still FSGC, so this isn't a merger. But Kathy, what exactly is this?
So we have both achieved a certification to become a CCBHC, which is a Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. And basically that's just a model. It's considered the gold standard model of care for our industry of mental health. And both of us achieving this at the same time means the whole continuum of care from birth to aged will be able to benefit from this great model that's going to enhance our services. It's going to increase access and availability of services, and it's going to also provide, help us get even better at getting good outcomes for the people who come to get care.
And you both needed to have the certification in order to work together, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what does this exactly allow you to do?
Well, overall, of course, this is a transformation going on around the country. It's been going on for about 9 years. Kansas has been involved for 2 years. Our state took leadership. We appreciate that. And in fact, city, county, state, and federal government all working together have made this possible one way or another. But the real overarching thing is whole person care. We really want to focus on mind and body. We call it integrated care, whole person care. It will improve access. There will be improved crisis services, improved access to addiction treatment. Kind of the whole spectrum will be available to people, even more than it is now. I tell people it takes the good stuff and makes it even better for our 2 agencies. and fills in a few gaps out there, like whole emphasis on non-four walls care, like outside the office care. We both do plenty of that right now in the community and schools, and we work with folks who are unsheltered in lots of different places, nursing homes, but it really increases our capacity to get out there where the people are, provide the care that they need.
How does it do that? Is it just because you have to have the certification in order to have access to certain funding streams?
Yep.
You know, the certification is going to provide a different way of funding us.
Right.
It's going to bring more federal dollars into Kansas, into the Medicaid system. It's going to also fund us in a way that helps us achieve outcomes for our clients. And so that's really in line with where we want dollars to be spent. We have to show that we get people better, that we help. So it's very much in line with our mission, and
Sure.
we're very excited about that.
What will this allow you to do in terms of additions or expansions that will address some of the issues we're seeing? For example, we hear people say, especially in the adolescent realm, there aren't enough beds available, there aren't
Right.
enough counselors available. We call for assistance and we're told it'll be a month or two down the line, which if you need somebody now, you need somebody now, right?
Sure,
So how does
yeah.
this address some of those larger issues that we've been seeing?
Improved funding would be better pay for our employees, so we can compete better in the job market, and we both made strides in that area recently. So, more therapists, available for people when they walk in the door. People can walk in and, without an appointment and get help. It'll just mean better access. I sometimes tell people that the door is wider, the hallways are longer and wider, and the rooms are bigger, figuratively speaking. Just, better access, better care, more access to peer support, people with lived experience who build, as they've recovered, they can turn around and get some skills and help other people recover. So lots of cool stuff coming.
And for youth, we are adding, as we speak, a new building facility that will house an 8-bed unit added to our community, one that we don't have that service now, and that's going to serve co-occurring issues in youth. In other words, people who have mental health conditions but also are struggling with alcohol drug issues. And right now there's only a couple facilities in the state that do that, and none in our area. So we'll be able to bring that to.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about what's coming down the line, especially as you expand outreach efforts. You already work together. As you said, this is going to take it to another level. Kathy, Bill, appreciate you being here, and we appreciate what Family Service and Guidance Center and Vallejo do for
Appreciate
our community.
you folks.
Thank you, Melissa.
Such an important topic, so stay tuned as they work through some of the different things you could be seeing them offer and expand in the near future. There's also a great effort underway to be a bit more proactive about downtown Topeka and keeping it a clean and safe place to live, work, and play. In fact, they call it the Clean and Safe Downtown Topeka Task Force. Its inaugural chairperson, Seth Wagoner, with AIM Strategies, joined our Red Couch show to talk a bit about their efforts and why they feel it's important. Welcome, Seth.
Hi.
We've done a lot of improvements in downtown Topeka over the past several years, so this kind of seems like a nice logical step. Where did the idea come from?
Well, I think it was kind of a partnership with, our organization, my boss, Cody Foster, and working with Matt Pavarnik. We've looked and seen that a lot of successful downtowns have a clean and safe committee, and it's just, we realized that we're 75% of the way there to a great downtown. This is just another thing to get us that extra 25% there to have one of the best downtowns.
It's kind of like you can't build it and ignore it. You have to build it and keep paying attention to it.
Absolutely. I think there's some things that, have been going on downtown. There's been a lot of little misdemeanor crimes, things like that. Needs to be more attention paid to making sure that all areas of downtown are cleaned up, not just on Kansas Avenue. So we've really got some really good plans to do that, and then also work with law enforcement to just continue to make things really much more safe.
So what sorts of things is the task force doing?
So one of the things that we're doing, I met last week with Topeka Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. We are actually going to be partnering. There's a lot of private cameras in downtown Topeka, but the public camera infrastructure is not really great. They have a real-time crime center right now that they're working on developing, and we are going to partner with them to get these private cameras like that AIM has in all of their buildings tied into the Topeka Police Department system so they can solve crimes just like that. We had a burglary last year at Cyrus. It took them probably about a week to solve it. If they had had the real-time crime center up and working, probably could have solved it within an hour.
So you're really focusing public-private partnership
Yes.
for this.
Yes.
When it comes to cleanup, that's something that you are all taking a kind of a personal interest in. Tell us
Yep.
what you have going on, because one of your efforts is actually tomorrow.
Yes, so tomorrow afternoon, all the managers at all the AIM locations are getting together, all the ones that don't have to work, and we are going to start cleaning up the alleyways in downtown Topeka. We did walk through a lot of the alleyways. There's, of course, a lot of trash, a lot of weeds, things that haven't been kept up. So, you know, some areas that, you know, we've had homeless people living in, so we're going to try to clean that area up.
What is the importance of everybody taking a stake? Because in some ways, I'm thinking, well, aren't there property owners who are going to pay attention to this? But then there are still some vacant properties down there. Whose responsibility should it be, or is that kind of the point of the task force? We're all in this together.
Absolutely, we're all in this together. You know, I hope other businesses will be encouraged to join, to reach out to me. I think that there's really good examples of great downtowns like Spokane, Washington. They have this thing every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. All the businesses come out at the same time and just clean up something in downtown Topeka or downtown Spokane. Yeah. I want this to be a practice that we're continuing to work through and work on, that this just becomes ingrained, that things will be clean, that, you know, we get vandalism cleaned up quickly, that, you know, everything just becomes us rolling up our sleeves to make sure that we have a great downtown.
If people want to get involved, what's the best way to do so?
They can contact me via email or my cell number, and they'll get involved, or they can contact Downtown Topeka Incorporated and get involved.
DTI is a good way you can look it up, and I will put Seth's email contact information on WIBW.com after the show so that you can email if you'd be interested. Maybe you're a downtown partner and would like to get involved with them. Your employees will be out tomorrow. You've got another one scheduled for a couple weeks. Why does this matter to everybody, Seth?
I think it matters to everybody because, you know, we've put so much effort into making downtown a much better place. You know, there's all the new development that's happened. There's been well over, you know, our investment and the city of Topeka's investment, over $80 million invested in downtown Topeka. And like I said, we're on that trajectory to being great. We just need to go that little further edge, and it just takes everybody's involvement to get there.
Protect what our town has invested. Seth,
Yes.
appreciate it. And like I said, I'll get Seth's contact information if you're interested in finding out more about the task force. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
They had that initial cleanup this week and collected 3,800 pounds of trash and debris. So congratulations and big thanks to the team from AIM Strategies. Employees from one of their restaurants, The Pennant, plan to be out and do another cleanup in a few weeks. And again, the task force with more efforts in the works, as you just heard Seth explain. We have a bit of a changing of the guard at WIBW-TV. Our news director, John Janes, is retiring after a 51-year career in journalism. A lot of people know John. He's been at WIBW for nearly 24 years now. His last day was June 30th, and we got him in the hot seat so we could kind of turn the tables a bit and find out about his career. I convinced you to come on the new red chairs. You had to feel them before you left.
Kind of scary, yeah. It's kind of scary.
Not so much.
Yeah.
51 years you've been in journalism. How did your career start? Take us back.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me tell you how it ended. I looked and
It's
saw
not over
that,
yet, though.
I looked and saw that WIBW is 70 years old this year, and realized I was older than WIBW, and I figured, well, okay, it's time to hang it up. But yeah, my mother worked at a newspaper in Vinton, Iowa. And she was the society editor, so she got me a job as a shooter and a photographer and a reporter when I was in high school. And I had black and white film, and then I shot black and white film. And then in college, I got there in the excitement of the Vietnam protests, so I got to cover Vietnam protests and got a couple bricks in my ribs, you know, while I was at a protest site and all that kind of thing. So that kicked it off. That was '69, and then interrupted by a 3-year Air Force career. It ended up 51 years in TV.
We did collect some photos, and there is one of that time in the Air Force. Thank you, Facebook. It was your fault for posting it.
Yeah,
there you
that
are,
was,
the young John Janes.
Yeah, there you go.
The Air Force, where did that all take you, and then what happened after that?
Well, I had 2 years in San Antonio, and then I had 1 year in Thailand toward the end of the Vietnam War. So, and then I'd worked in San Diego before and after that, so I was a photographer at that point. So, it's
Well, we appreciate your service, and that is probably one lesson that you've imparted to all the journalists. There's your golf that you're going to do, is appreciation for military service and our veterans. So we always make a top priority on Memorial Day and Veterans Day to make sure we're thanking everyone for their service. What has been the most outstanding memory for you over these years?
Well, I think the most excitement really was when I was a photographer in San Diego. I mean, right out of college, I was covering a fire, and I got too close to it, and it came right up the road at me, and that could have been the end of my career after about 2 years. So, and then the funny one was I was covering Richard Nixon at a Presbyterian church in North San Diego, and they had the area roped off, and I started leaning over like this so I could get a better shot of the president, and all of a sudden, sharp pain in my right, and I looked, and it was a Secret Service agent, and he just looked at me, had a big grin. In other words, stay back.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, and then Gerald Ford visited San Diego. A lot of breaking news. It was just when you're young like that, it's fun to cover all the breaking news, and that was a huge plate of breaking news in San Diego.
What do you think has changed the most over all of these years?
Oh, I think it's I think a lot of the you used to go into it and you moved every 2 years to another job, and now when you're into like our station, we have, and I've told you this before, and this is why WIBW is so strong, because we have 10 people that have 253 years of TV news experience.
Combined,
So,
not one.
Right. So anybody that wants to have a mentor when they get out of college, you've got people that have 253 years, which is very unusual. So I think it's good to have the stability. When I was going back, the whole word was if you were a manager, you're moving every 2 years. You either went because the ratings were bad and you got fired, or you got a chance to work in a bigger market.
You've been here 24 years. A lot of people have been through this newsroom during that time. What do you hope, John, that we all remember about you, besides the whiteboards?
I think the biggest thing was we started the careers out of a lot of kids. A lot of kids right out of college, and some of them were Kansas City, some of them were Denver, they're in New York City, and then we have the ones that want to stay in this area, which is great. We've got a good number of those kids now. But just saying that you helped kick off their career. I mean, I think I've called it like a graduate school for new journalists. You don't get all that experience in college, but then you get out in the so-called real world, and you get a lot of experience.
Well, we wish you well. Linda, who we saw some photos of there, you're going to spend more time with her and your kids, who are all spread out all over. So we wish you well with that. We hope you have success on the golf course.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not counting on that one. Yeah.
And congratulations to you on a long career. We have appreciated having you and your leadership and your guidance for 24 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. A couple things about John. He is known for using whiteboards to keep track of a lot of things. We'll probably be keeping those around the newsroom, so thinking of him often when we use the whiteboards. And also, he liked to give people nicknames. So as the news has been spreading, people have been commenting on social media using the nicknames that John used to call them. A lot of good memories there. So glad you could join us for a few moments today for Eye on Northeast Kansas, the podcast. Remember, you can see the videos from these segments and all of our segments on WIBW.com. I also post them on my Facebook page, which is WIBW Melissa Bruner. And remember, the show itself streams live Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Central Time on WIBW.com. If you can't catch us there, you can catch us here. We'll see you on the Red Couch.